Okay, so let's break this down. Eli Manning.
Manning, corner, has a man open, touchdown!
You hear the name, and your mind probably jumps to two things: 2 Super Bowl rings and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Or maybe you think of those clutch playoff performances or the fact that he's part of the Manning family, football royalty. But let's strip away all that for a second. The Manning name and the legacy that comes with it. Is Eli actually a Hall of Famer? Or, I guess the real question is he first ballot?
Is Eli a first ballot Hall of Famer?
100%. What do the DBs do nowadays when you guys make a
seatbelt?
Yeah. Strap. Lock.
I think Eli gets in, but mainly because he's part of the Manning family. He had those 2 big highs, and he's happened to be in New York.
Eli Manning has led this league in interceptions not once or twice, but 3 times.
Objectively, Eli Manning had one of the great careers in the history of the sport. He's in the top 10 in practically every statistical category.
Well, to answer that question, we first need to look at how Eli came to be, examining the highs and even the lows of his potential gold jacket career. Born on January 3rd, 1981 in New Orleans, Eli was raised in a family steeped in football tradition.
Saints select on the first round, quarterback Archie Manning, University of Mississippi.
His father, Archie Manning, goes without saying, was a celebrated quarterback who played for the New Orleans Saints and was considered one of the game's greats despite playing on mostly below-average teams.
I feel like it would be very rewarding and meaningful if I could be on a winner here, and that's why I want to stick it out. I want to stay here. I want to win here.
His older brother, Peyton, was already carving out his path to greatness. So you can only imagine with such a lineage, expectations for Eli, fair or not, were extremely high from the start. He attended the Isidore Newman School, a prestigious prep school in New Orleans, where he would begin to make a name for himself on the field. I mean, Eli was putting up numbers, I can't lie. He broke several of Peyton's records, throwing for over 7,000 yards and 89 touchdowns. Regardless of the Manning name, his performance alone garnered significant attention from college scouts, setting the stage for the next chapter of his career.
Throughout all of this, Eli has brought us great joy. After all, he's my lad, my sweet baby boy.
Eli would end up choosing to attend the University of Mississippi, or Ole Miss, following his father's footsteps.
Didn't seem too concerned about following his famous father.
My dad was obviously a great player, I guess, around 30 years ago, and I'm excited about him going to Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been a big part of our lives and our family. It's a fun school, and it's a good football program.
That decision was both obviously sentimental but strategic. It offered Eli a chance to step out of his brother's shadows and forge his own identity.
First, Eli Manning make his own mark in college football. Wide open in the end zone, touchdown, Armstrong. And Mark, that's Eli Manning's first career touchdown pass, and I'm sure lots more to follow.
During his time at Ole Miss, Eli displayed the poise and leadership that would later define his NFL career. He threw for over 10,000 yards and 81 touchdowns over his college career, earning numerous accolades, including the Maxwell Award as the nation's top player in 2003. However, despite these individual accolades, Ole Miss never really reached the pinnacle of college football during Eli's tenure, ultimately finishing with a 10-3 record his senior year. Soon after, Eli would make the ultimate decision to follow his father and his brother's footsteps and declare for the NFL draft. But if you know anything about this part of the story, then we all know Eli's transition to the NFL was anything but smooth.
Eli Manning. Boy, did this swirl every day. What do we expect now?
It's incredible that we have the Mannings, the classy family, getting booed even right here like that. That's just about the drama we have right now. But let's go back 10 days ago when the San Diego Chargers called Tom Canton, the agent for Eli Manning, and said, we choose to negotiate with you right now for Eli Manning. He's going to be our first pick, and Tom Canton sends the message, no, we choose not to negotiate. We don't want you to take Eli Manning. At that point, Dean Spanos, the president of the Chargers, called Paul Tagliabue, the commissioner of the NFL Football League, and Tagliabue said, let me call Archie Manning a friend. And at that point, Tagliabue asked him Archie to get involved in this process. Archie, as we know, met with the Chargers, and basically Canton called this past Wednesday night and reiterated the family position. We do not want Eli to be a Charger. Why? The Mannings have not detailed these issues, the whys, but clearly it is an indictment of the Spanos family that owns the Chargers. They don't see much hope, they don't see a commitment, and that's my interpretation of the events, Chris, and that's where we're at right now, where the Chargers committed to taking Eli Manning unless something dramatic happens shortly.
In the 2004 NFL Draft, he was selected first overall by the San Diego Chargers, but him and his family made it extremely clear that he did not want to play for him. This led to a dramatic draft day trade to the New York Giants, who sent their own first-round pick, Phillip Rivers, along with other draft assets to the Chargers.
Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, and also the Giants are assigning to the Chargers their third-round pick in this draft and their first and third-round picks in next year's draft.
The move was controversial, and Eli was immediately under intense scrutiny. And his rookie season was rocky, to say the least. He struggled with consistency, throwing for 1,043 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions in 7 starts. Critics were quick to question whether Eli had it to succeed in the NFL, especially given the high price the Giants had paid to acquire him. The next few years, though, were a mix of ups and downs as Eli developed under the tutelage of head coach Tom Coughlin.
Manning drops back, blitz on, keeps it left for Plaxico Burress, who makes the catch for a touchdown! Giants have won in overtime, and they come on the field and mob Manning!
But his breakthrough came in the 2007 season. Let's talk about that 2007 playoff run.
Welcome to Lambeau Field in Green Bay for the NFC Championship game. Second coldest game ever at Lambeau Field, -1 degree with a wind chill of -23.
Eli Manning and the Giants went into Lambeau Field and beat Brett Favre in sub-zero temperatures.
Signals, back to throw. Looks right, looks left, throws it left, looking for Toomer down the sideline, makes a diving catch. Is he in or out? They say he's in at the 12-yard line. And Tynes runs into the tunnel, 2-out right, and the New York Giants are going to Super Bowl 42 in overtime. They beat the Packers 20.
Then they took on Tom Brady and the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Comes up with the ball. What a play! Right, first left. Manning calling signals, takes the snap, looks left, lobs it left, throws is wide open, touchdown Giants! In the left corner of the end zone! Touchdown! With 35 seconds to go, and the Giants regain the lead! And that is it! The New York Giants have knocked off the New England Patriots 17-14 as Tom Coughlin gets a Gatorade bath. They get a final stand on the great Tom Brady, and the Giants, with the most improbable win in recent memory, have won Super Bowl 42.
Oh, and he followed it up 4 years later with another Super Bowl MVP performance against those same Patriots.
With the Giants and Manning dancing in the pocket, but has time, throws, what a catch. Nix with those huge hands and goes play clock all the way down to 0, and the pass in the end zone is shot and caught by Victor Cruz for a touchdown. On the sideline, they're going to rule the catch by Manningham. They're going to spot the ball at the 50-yard line. Brady, barring a defensive foul, the game ends here to the end zone. Hernandez is there, tipped and batted. Gronkowski can't get it. Incomplete. And the New York Giants, given last rites by many in December, are the Super Bowl champs in February.
To just 2 interceptions. He didn't just survive in those high-pressure moments, he thrived. Now, throughout Eli's career, his numbers are like the bedrock of his Hall of Fame argument. Over 16 NFL seasons, he carved out a record that, frankly, speaks to endurance and steadiness. I mean, look at these stats. His passing yards being 57,023, 8th of all time. Touchdown passes 366, 9th of all time. 244 interceptions, an 84.1 passer rating, an okay 60.3% completion percentage, and wins as a starter, 117 out of 117. We'll get to that later. Playoff record, 8-4, and this last stat, starting 210 consecutive games, That's the third longest streak by any quarterback in NFL history. Think about that. For over a decade, Eli Manning was out there every single Sunday. Rain, snow, bad offensive line, it didn't matter. That kind of durability is rare.
Certainly a day of very mixed emotions for us. It's sad in one sense because we're seeing the end of an incredible playing career and saying goodbye to someone who has been everything you could ask a player to be, both on and off the field for the last 16 years. Yet we're also very happy because we get to be here to celebrate that incredible career. And we're also able to witness one of the greatest players in franchise history be able to leave the game on his own terms, having played his whole career as a Giant.
But Eli's career isn't just a story of resilience. It's also a tale of highs and lows. He led the league in interceptions 3 times, in 2007, in 2010, and 2013. And his career record as a starter sits at a very symmetrical but unremarkable 117 out of 117. Literally the definition of average. See, this is what makes Eli's debate fascinating. The contrast between his legendary peaks and the middling stretches that make you question how he stacks up against the NFL's all-time greats. So, to untangle the enigma of Eli Manning, let's zoom out for a bit. How does he compare to these other quarterbacks? Both those enshrined in Canton and those left on the doorstep. First, let's start with the Hall of Famers with similar stats. We have Troy Aikman with 32,942 yards, 165 touchdowns, 141 interceptions, and an 81.6 passer rating. Aikman's 3 Super Bowl wins cement his legacy, but statistically, he's not blowing anyone away. Jim Kelly is another one with 35,467 yards, 237 touchdowns, 175 interceptions, and an 84.4 passer rating. Jim Kelly is more about narrative. 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. Period. And lastly, we have Joe Namath with 27,663 yards, 173 touchdowns, 220 interceptions, and a passer rating of 65.5. Now, honestly, Joe Namath's Super Bowl III guarantee and cultural impact, they kind of outweigh his pedestrian numbers. Okay, so now let's look at the non-Hall of Famers with similar stats. Vinny Testaverde with 46,233 yards, 275 touchdowns, 267 interceptions with a 75 passer rating. Longevity? Yes. Defining moments? No, not really. Next, Drew Bledsoe with 44,611 yards, 251 touchdowns, 206 interceptions with a 77.1 passer rating. Solid, but lacking any playoff success. And lastly, Phil Simms with 33,462 yards, 199 touchdowns, 157 interceptions with a 78.5 passer rating. Super Bowl MVP, but he's never reached Canton. This comparison highlights Eli's biggest challenge. Statistically, he's neither an outlier nor an underdog. What honestly tips the scales here are the moments that defined his career. This is where things get a little tricky. First ballot Hall of Famers, they're a rare breed. You know, the Mannings, Montanas, and Bradys of the world. But let's be honest, does Eli belong in that conversation? Honestly, no. Eli's career lacks the week-to-week dominance of his brother Peyton or the sustained excellence of Tom Brady. But what Eli does have are those 2 transcendent playoff performances and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Honestly, that's his big joker. See, the Hall of Fame, it just isn't a statistical leaderboard. It's a museum that tells the story of football. And you can't tell the story of the NFL without Eli. Manning's career is a case study in duality. On one hand, his regular season record is frustratingly average. But on the other hand, his postseason heroics are unforgettable. So here's the thing about Eli. He's not just a quarterback. He's a symbol of resilience, of stepping up when it counts, and of what makes football so unpredictable and exciting. The Hall of Fame is about more than just stats or rings. It's about legacy. And Eli's legacy, it's undeniable. So whether he goes in on the first ballot or not, Eli Manning's place in Canton feels inevitable. He wasn't perfect, but in the moments that mattered the most, he was better than anyone else on the planet. And isn't that what we're really celebrating?
Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant. Thank you so much.